What is your name?
Beast.
What?
Beast.
The Beast.
The Beast.
So this year has been an absolute shit show, so if you're gonna tell me that demons live among us to top it all off, I could not care less. If anything, I'd expect it, like what else could go wrong this year? Now I believe aliens and angels walk among us, probably supernatural creatures do too, so demons aren't really a huge stretch past that, are they? Bring them on. I hope they're the kind that are trying to keep a low profile and not screw everyone around them, you know what I mean? Fingers crossed. What is up you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host Eamon Hassan and welcome back to another video. Now before I get into it, a lot of people keep asking me about this, and it's not a really ugly bruise. I actually burnt myself with my curling wand, so that's what that is. Don't worry guys, I'm all good. It is healing. Not to worry. But thank you for the concern, that's really cute. But either way, today I'm coming at you with the top 10 scary demons that live among us. Starting us off at number 10 is Nosferatu. That creature was utterly terrifying, and beyond the movie, I don't need to see him ever again. Ever. This one comes from Reddit user D-Day Dodger, who shared that when they were 10 years old, their family lived in a farmhouse in this rural area. Their bedroom was actually their parents' walk-in closet, and their bed was on the floor. That would have been very annoying for the parents. Like, what if they wanted to, get down to it and the little kid was just in the walk-in closet give us some privacy. Either way, one night as the user was sleeping, something awoke them in the middle of the night, and when they opened their eyes, they were horrified. There was this black humanoid figure crouching next to the bed with its face not even a foot away from the user's face. Eyes wide open, the demon was just staring at the user as it started moving closer. Instead of screaming, the user just hid under the blankets, which is a great call for when it's night and you don't want the demons to get you. I used this tactic a billion times while I was growing up, and clearly I'm still here and fine, so it does work. Either way, the user fell asleep while feeling the demon thing breathe on them and woke up the next day alone in their room. All they said was that the demon looked a lot like Nosferatu, and that means I don't need to see this demon. Nope. Coming in at number 9 is Ellora. Back in March of 2015, 22-year-old Ellora from Argentina seemed inherently possessed by some demon or another. Her family were concerned, her friends were scared, and the options were getting slim. Bishop Manuel Osuna stepped in and performed an exorcism on her, and the process was grueling. You can see her writhing and banging her head on the ground in the video, and she's doing all that while being held down by 2 women. Bishop Manuel is part of the bishops at Lutheran Charismatic Church, and they all believe that the demon exists. He's not an idea or a theory, he's not something abstract, he's something terrifying, a fallen angel. The devil is not a metaphor, the devil is something real that Jesus Christ faced. The devil looks for the perdition of the human being, and for this he will use any possible evil instrument. And by that, they just mean possessing humans, so they are definitely among us. They're probably all devils. At number 8 we have Lucifer. Back in 1997, Father Gabriel Amorth was confronted with a demon in the form of a young lanky peasant man. Amorth founded the International Association of Exorcists back in 1994 and has a never-ending list of people who he's exorcised. He shared that some liberations take months and others can take years. Can you imagine being possessed for years? You don't get that time back. What a betrayal. Either way, while the exorcism was going on, Amorth asked Jesus for help, and the man started spitting and cursing at him in English even though he could only speak fluent Italian. The guy began to howl and scream and froth at the mouth and was seemingly ready to attack the priest. After more prayers and ritual recitations, he asked the demon what its name was, and the man snarled back saying, "I am Lucifer." At this point, the guy's back was unnaturally arched and he was just screaming as his eyes rolled back. The room got so cold to the point ice crystals were forming on the walls and windows, and then the guy straight up started levitating. Say no more, I don't need to continue. Filling at number 7 slot is the Bible. Now I just want to preface this one with the fact I'm not Christian, so I have not read the Bible. I'm taking the information and interpretation of this from sources online, so if something's not completely correct, then I apologize for my ignorance. Just let you know. Olufemi Olusanmi shared on Quora that according to Ephesians 6:12, New King James Version, it says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." Meaning it's simply not normal or human for people to kill, betray, and hurt others. Anytime a human does any of those despicable acts, it's actually a demon doing them. So technically, demons live among us in abundance abundance. Serial killers seem to have happy relationships with their demons, others do not. Suffice it to say though, they are everywhere. Now at number 6 is Home Alone. This story was shared by an anonymous Quora user who said back in 2018, her husband went on a business trip for a night, so she was home alone with their 2 young sons. The wife put them to sleep and then got into bed herself at around 11 PM. For some reason, that night she couldn't fall asleep and kept waking up every hour or so with this feeling that her front door wasn't properly locked. At 3 AM she got out of bed and checked the door, and true enough, it was locked and deadbolted. But I so relate to this. I always think my front door is unlocked even though I've checked it a billion times, but then I go check again because I have OCD, so there's that. Anyway, she went back to bed to find her kids awake a few minutes later. When the sun started rising, someone rang the doorbell and everyone thought the dad had come home early. As she reached the door with her kids, she kept getting this overwhelming feeling to not open the door. Her son goes to open it and she stops him before looking through the peephole and seeing an unknown man with his back to the door. When he turned around, the woman could see his thick black hair and no face. It was just a blank face. She gasped loud enough for the demon man to hear her that he started banging on the door, but she wouldn't open it. This went on for another 10 minutes before he finally left. No face. Are you sure it wasn't a lucid dream? That is screwed up. Coming in at number 5 are Wendigos. I've done a 2-part series on Wendigos before, so check those out if you haven't watched them already, but this creature hails from the folklore of the First Nations Algonquin tribes in Canada and the US. Seen as evil spirits or demons, they can possess a human, making them do horrible things like murder, become cannibals, or become incredibly greedy and more. Their reputation is so bad within indigenous communities that Wendigo psychosis is a thing where people are so terrified of becoming a cannibal or Wendigo, but they're also simultaneously craving human flesh with a very high intensity. It's a very paradoxical situation. Between the late 1800s and 1920s, locals of a small town called Roseau in Minnesota reported sightings of the Wendigo. Every time anyone in town saw the demon, someone would unexpectedly die soon after. Not much is known about the sightings or why they occurred, but they eventually stopped, as did the deaths, and everything went back to normal. At number 4 is Julia. Now Julia's case is quite recent. It only happened in 2008, but I say that's recent even though that was 12 years ago, but it seemed like 2. Anyway, Dr. Richard Gallagher, a self-proclaimed man of science, became the go-to guy for exorcisms in the US. He saw it with his own eyes countless times, people suddenly speaking perfect Latin, sacred objects flying off shelves, a whole bunch. So one day he was called to help a woman dubbed Julia. She was a charming normal woman, but was also a high priestess of a satanic cult, and one day she went to a priest claiming she was being attacked by a demon. Objects would fly off shelves around her, she knew things about Richard there was no way she could have known, and even when he was on the phone to a priest, they both heard her demonic trance voices, which was impossible because she was thousands of miles away and nowhere near a phone whatsoever. Julia gained abilities that she didn't have before joining the cult, and anytime she went into a demonic trance, she'd have no recollection of what had gone on. They tried exorcising her, during which she started speaking in tongues, exhibiting superhuman strength, levitating, and changing the temperature of the room, and it ultimately failed. She refused to leave the cult or stop worshipping Satan, meaning the team couldn't do anything for her. Julia eventually got cancer and didn't want to die possessed, but Gallagher never heard from her again and presumed she was dead. Filling our number 3 slot is Amy Stammitis. Back in November of 2006, Amy climbed into an open window of an apartment building in Arkansas and threw herself off of it, paralyzing herself from the waist down. When asked about the incident, she said she didn't jump, but definitely fell. Amy had been having dark thoughts for months and started hearing voices telling her to kill herself. While in the hospital, she was visited by a woman who claimed she had raised the dead and that she could see demons inside of Amy. In the months leading up to the incident, weird things started happening to her. At the end of a 24-hour shift at the hospital, Amy fixed up a burn patient and then completely forgot how to do her job. She didn't even know where she was, and that was her last shift. Previously a marathon runner, she couldn't even run straight anymore, let alone pick her clothes out. Pentecostal evangelist Cindy Lawson met Amy and said she saw the demons surrounding her and compelling her to hurt herself and others. Now at number 2 is Gina. So back in 1990, Reverend James Labar performed many exorcisms, one of which were on a Florida teen called Gina. Her exorcism was televised by the ABC network in 1991. Can we just? Is that even humane? Gina was hospitalized for displaying psychotic behavior, and she went from that to tabloid fodder. Was she even capable of consent at this time? During the exorcism, which 29 million people tuned zoomed into, Gina is strapped to a chair while she barks at the priest and speaks in gibberish. She was possessed by demonic spirits, one was called Zion and the other Minga. The priest pressed a cross to her face saying, "You want pain, I'll give you pain," and then read the Roman Catholic rite of exorcism. After she was sent home, she was re-hospitalized and given antipsychotic drugs within a few days. A psychiatrist claimed the exorcism was a serious risk to her health and that she may just be delusional. Either way, I feel like something that puts you in that vulnerable of a space and at a time you don't have control over what you're doing should not be televised. That's just me though. And finally, at number 1 is Zurich. So this one was shared by Reddit user Hamish051, and he said that back in October of 2017, his band were on a European tour and was staying in a super old building in Zurich. Like, the building was built in 1260, it was old as shit. Anyway, the Airbnb was surprisingly super clean and Hamish decided to sleep on his blow-up mattress. As the group was getting ready to go out in town, they saw a leaflet on the table telling them how old the building was, which was crazy to them. They honestly had no idea based on how well it had been renovated. Either way, the bandmates went out while Hamish stayed in and went to sleep. He woke up a while later at 3:30 AM due to the sound of a dripping tap. His bandmate had told him he was going to take a bath when he got back, so Hamish was pissed he was being so loud about it. He tried going back to sleep when he felt a large weight on the bottom left corner of his mattress and it launched him into the air. He had an almost instant panic attack as ice shock went through his body. He felt a nudge and then another one. Hamish took off his blankets and saw the shape beyond the bed. It was this girl who was about 5'6" with hair down to her feet and no face. She was soaking wet and she had no face. He tried to scream but no sound was coming out, so he hid under the blankets and fell asleep terrified. He woke up to see one of his bandmates working at the table and another one, Gary, who was just waking up. He looked like a smacked ass, and so Hamish asked him if he had slept okay, and he said, "Mate, you would not believe me if I told you." Gary and Hamish had seen the exact same demon girl the night before. And that is it for today's video, guys. I don't think I've ever met a demon. I've met some pretty horrible people. Would I count them as demons? I'm not really sure. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. As always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!